Hello, this video is for SunGoldPower. They wanted me to document my system because I'm having an error code 9 fault that happens occasionally, not that often, but occasionally. To review, this is 24 195 watt solar panels. I had them originally hooked up into a single array to maximize the voltage, and I had to cut it back down to 19 connected in series because anything greater than that, and at the brightest time of the day, like now, it would actually trigger the high voltage cutoff at 450 volts DC. So now I've got just two strings, a string of 12 here and a string of 12 there, that go to a combiner box over here. And then they're fed together there, in there, and then they come out right here and they go over to the solar shed, as I call it, over here. And inside of here I've got my SunGoldPower MPPT, and the batteries that are connected are right over here. There's 3 times 4, there's 12 of them, 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3, and they are hooked up in 3 strings of 4, so that would be 48 volts in series, and then parallel the 3 arrays. You can see they're connected in there, and they all come in right down here into the DC input of the MPPT. These happen to be eco-worthy, can't quite read one right there. It's a 12 volt, 100 amp hour lithium iron phosphate battery. Okay. I've also got something different from the last time you've seen. I've got a serial connector here going to an adapter to a USB. It then goes to the back of this computer over here, and I'm running the SunGoldPower software, which is a little difficult to see with the glare behind me, but that's that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through the settings as requested by SunGold on the panel right inside. This will be kind of boring, but you'll see. First of all, you can tell by the picture there that I've only got the solar array connected. That's the DC input right here. Again, that's the 2 strings of 12 195 watt panels coming in there. And then I've got the battery array down here connected, which I just showed you. I also have, this is the AC output right there, which then goes to this little breaker box where I've got some breakers feeding various devices. And then recently I added the AC input. Right now it just goes to a big fat cable that connects, it uses that type of adapter that connects into, when needed, this motor generator right here, this little backup power generator. I tested this weekend and it works just fine. I was able to pump 50 amps, because I believe that's a 50 amp cable max, 50 amps of 240 volt off of this motor generator into the array, and then have it charge the battery pack with up to 50 amps of power. So anyway, so right now that's not connected, so there is no AC input, there's no grid connection, and it shows that here. So going through the screens, here I go, nice and slow. There is input right now. There's the battery sitting at 51.9 volts. There's line 1, line 2. There's very little load on the system right now. It's pretty much just a camera. And just going through all the options here. There's the output. There's output again for each of the lines. Here is the parameters, the date, whatnot. There's my total that is captured since I installed it, and the daily. There's the input to the batteries. Right now it's pushing about 29 amps into the batteries from the solar, and you can see the input voltage there. Again, that's 2 arrays, or 2 strings of 12 panels. That's 199 volts coming in at 1.79 kilowatts, or about 1800 watts of power. I've seen peaks. I'll show you in a minute some graphs here. Well, I can't show you the graphs. Anyway, I got graphs that show peaks of around 2000 and slightly above in the brightest time of the day. There's the battery. There's the load on that. There's not much going on there. Not much on there. Again, on each of the. Now I've looped around to where I'm going to be. And I'm going to go to the parameters, because they asked me to show you the parameters. So I'm holding down this button right here. It's a long hold on that. And then I'm gonna just arrow through the different values here, which if you have a manual in front of you, you could just read along. I don't have them memorized. I don't have enough hands to keep track of all this. So here we go. There's parameter 2, I believe that means appliance. Parameter 3, that's the volts. There's the inverter frequency, 60 hertz. I don't remember what 5 is. I don't remember what 6 is. 7, anyway, just showing the values. This is for SunGoldPower to help me debug an issue. There's 9, 10 SNU. I believe SNU means that it will charge either from utility or from the solar panels. I'll keep going here. There's 11, there's 13, 14. I believe these are battery settings here. There's, like, I think the high, maybe that's the volt charge, or that's the volt charge. I forget which one it is. Any of these are voltage parameters for the charging aspect. There's, I think it's a cutoff volt there. There's another nice voltage, 22, 23. We're almost to the end. 24, 25, 27, 28, 29. And now we're getting, these are all the parameters having to do with what time of day you allow it to charge from the utility or not. Again, I'm not connected to the grid, so these aren't used in this configuration. And then we're back to number 1. Okay. Other thing I want to show you was over here. This is the solar. In fact, I'm going to close one of these doors, maybe get some of that glare off the screen. All right. Close that one. Close this one. That should be better. Okay, good. Now I'm going to go over here to the software, and this is the solar panel software. And again, it's reading serial data off of COM3 in this case, which is the USB connection that goes to the plug, the RJ45 into the device. And here's just a little graphic, kind of neat, shows the flashing utility because it's not connected. There's no AC coming in, but you can see it's got, you know, it's got solar power coming in. It's going to the battery. It's going to load. And then over here I have, this is my most used page, my solar array voltage and the wattage coming in right now. Again, there's no grid voltage at all, so those are all zeros. There's my output right there, the frequencies and L1, L2, so you know, it's trying to maintain 120 volts. Here's my apparent output for L1, L2. What's active, you can see I've got L2, is there's a, basically this is the power used for this computer. This computer is actually on it's connected to the solar inverter. Makes sense, right? There's my percent load, my battery voltage, my battery capacity. There's that 28 amps, which matches what we saw on the small screen as well. So right now, this is the best time of day to take energy from the sun and convert it into voltage and store it into the battery array. Okay. Down here, there's a neat graph. Actually, a couple of comments here. One comment is that, let me go just show you this SunGoldPower. You know, across the top here, I've got different icons. Like this gets me data. This is event log and fault data log. This is where I log in. So you can see I'm logged in as administrator, so I can change things if I wanted to. Let me just show you the data, because this is interesting. If I click on data, then it pops up a window. Wait for it. There it is. And the very first part of this is the device. You can see there's a pull down menu here, and this is the, I believe it's the serial number of the device coming in from the serial port. And if I go over here, it defaults to today. See here, November 1st. If I hit browse, it actually retrieves the data, and here it is all right here. So I've got all sorts of useful data that that is available. There's timestamps right here, so you can see I've got all sorts of neat stuff. And then I was trying to figure out a way to capture this data over time, because this, if I go back and go back a month to October 1st, when I started this, when this thing actually started to be used, I click browse. This is going to take a while because this is a fairly old computer, so it doesn't even have an SSD disk in it or a decent processor, but eventually it will load. You can see that this is only 731 rows of data for today's data, starting at midnight, you know, second after midnight. If you wait long enough, I don't know how much time, I want to wait, but you'll see this number will jump up to show all the data from October 1st until now. Anyway, so while that's running, my point being is that some of these displays within the solar power, which apparently it's a Java-based app, because when you download it from SunGoldPower's website, it installs a Java runtime environment, as well as, you know, the actual program, the actual binary that requires that runtime environment, which is this program right here. Anyway, it runs, and you'll see eventually it might actually return results. It's still processing. See, the browse button is still clicked down, so it hasn't finished doing that query. I think there's a little database under the covers. Yeah, just now finished. Okay, so 43,000 rows, which is nice. So I've got data here going back, and I'm not going to scroll all the way down. Well, I guess maybe I could scroll all the way down. Yeah, I can. Right here, because it's all in memory now. So you can see I've got data going back to October 1st. So I've got a whole month's worth of data, which is great. And I've got all these different values, basically the same values that you see over here under basic information. I've got snapshots every few seconds. Looks like it's about every second right here. You can see the timestamp, how it goes there. So I've got a lot of useful longitudinal data that I can use to see how this thing's performing. And sometimes on the bottom down here, they got this nice little graph that shows the daily, the monthly, and the annual usage so far. Annual and monthly always seems to work. So I'll see. You can see there's the monthly use for the month of 9. So there's a little bit of use I had in September, and then there's all of October right there. Daily, sometimes I will get the daily stuff here. And what I was going to show you, even though it's not showing it now, but if you look from October 1st to 10th, you can see that basically the amount of data, the amount of kilowatt hours coming in per day was a certain amount. It was around, you know, I don't know, this auto scale, so you can't really trust that scale right there. And then around the 10th is when I converted from a 19 string of solar panels to 2 12 strings, because I want to use all 24 panels. And you know, even though it's variable per day, I wish I could show it to you, but again, it's not working. Then it shows, it looks like I'm actually getting more, which you would expect. With more panels, I'm getting more energy out of the sun, even though I think SunGold would prefer that I run the input power, the voltage, to be as high as possible short of 450, because again, 450 will cause a default. Okay, anyway, so the issue I'm having is, which I believe is related to the fact that I can't see the per hour. I've never been able to see the per hour, and over here you've got some counters. Notice the year amount is there. There's a value for it. Month and today, and output power has always been 0. So I suspect. Wait, actually, let me just go to another one. Here's the event log. So if I click on that, you can see it does have a value in the device pull-down menu. If I click browse, there's no values in there, but if there were, then it would retrieve them. And if I go back in time, again to October 1st, let me try that again. Okay, there is some data from, you know, here's the first 10. In fact, these are the times when it did my fault 9. I'm pretty sure when it actually, you know, reestablished communication. See, there were some battery lows here. We had some really cloudy days, and again, I'm not connected to the grid, so the system will just go into dormancy mode, or whatever it's called, where it stops inverting, or inverts very little, in order to preserve these batteries at a certain voltage. But anyway, if I go to fault data log right here, notice that, and I don't know why, but notice under device, it won't allow me to select it. There's nothing there. So I don't know if that means there's something wrong with the way the software is configured, or if there's something wrong with a bug in the software, or a bug in the device. Who knows? At any rate, hoping SunGoldPower knows. So I can't get any fault data log data longitudinal out of the device, because again, it doesn't see the device up here in the pull down. What other ones? Let's see. So I've already shown you event log. That one does show you the device, so I can pull data there. I've already shown you data, which to me is great. I'm glad I'm getting this one, because this has all the juicy raw data that I can use to do graphing over time. This is the power generation data log, and I think if you go period, month, and you go browse, and it'll just give you that again, day, hour. So it is able to get something. I'm not sure why it doesn't show. You can see just summarize. There's no data there. There's output 0. So I'm not sure what's going on there, but at least it does show the fact that there is a oh, there you go. There's some data there. If I go to month, I browse there as well. I've got to actually, I guess I've got to actually pick a month, like maybe pick November and browse. Okay, there you go. So let me try daily, because this is the one I'm really interested in. And I'm going to pick October 1st and then browse. So this is the graph that I was trying to show you down here. So I can get the data, it's just a little convoluted. So this is, again, the October 1st through October 10th is when I had it connected in a string of 19 solar panels, 195 watt solar panels, and then there was an outage, and then this is where I switched it over to 2 strings of 12 for a total of 24. And you can see, excuse me, cat, there's a cat right here. I wonder how quickly the cat would die hitting a battery pack. I don't want to find out. Anyway, so that, if you look at the area of this curve, realizing it's variable depending on the day and the sunlight generation, there's a peak at 11 kilowatt hours there. Over here we have higher peaks, and it looks like if you just use a little bit of your Riemann sum from your calculus class, that there's a higher area under this curve, you know, ignoring these days where I didn't get any data. So I would say that the SunGoldPower, it does like higher voltages. You got to get, I think, at least to 150 before it starts to actually invert or charge. You know, but that 450 is a problem. I can't have the thing shutting down at 450 or boot cycling or anything like that. You can see here's my cloudy days we had recently. I'm hoping that when it's done, you notice there's no data for yesterday. I don't know why it was running, but at any rate, I believe that I can go through real quickly this configuration stuff. I don't think it matters much, but this is for completeness sake for SunGoldPower. There's the basic configuration page. I don't use SSMS. I don't use email. I actually RDP into this box. Actually, I use TeamViewer, if you're curious. So I can just TeamView directly into this box from anywhere, even my cell phone, which is nice. So I can always bring up the software. And I was really pleased to learn that the software is, I believe it's capturing the serial data and then putting it in a database on this Windows machine. So that means that I've got, you know, if the device bellies up, I think I've still got the data preserved somewhere, which is nice. And then I've got it hooked up to a Google Drive, so it's actually being automatically synced up in the cloud as well. Here's, I haven't got anything set, but this is where you could send, in theory, you could send texts or emails whenever there's a condition. I haven't played with that yet. This is where it shows what COM ports you have. It's already got COM3 selected, and it's pulling data. You can tell that because that's there, and these values over here are changing. Under device control, this is all the same parameters that you also see going through the menu. I just thought it'd be useful to see them here as well. And some of these are, you know, some are kind of obvious. Mute, buzzer alarm, overload alarm, restart, over temp, auto. I figured if it gets real hot, I don't want it sitting there just trying again and again and again and frying itself. I disable the backlight. I mean, why burn LEDs? You don't have to. I set it as an off-grid model type. This is interesting. Some questions I asked SunGoldPower. These are the only choices for quote standard unquote, and they said India is the right one. I don't remember. It's in an email somewhere. I'm sorry, I don't remember exactly what standards they're applying there. This is the priority for the solar and utility. And like I said before, when I had my generator hooked up and I actually had a source of AC power, I had to actually turn off the breaker for solar in order to get the utility to charge anywhere above 2 amps. Otherwise, it trickled in at 2 amps, which seems like a waste. When I had it off, then it would go and charge at 50 amps because that's what I have the setting set to. Anyway, so that was kind of a confusing thing there. There's my current, and I don't know why. Oh, that's that was it right there. I'm sorry. That was that right. There's my maximum AC charging current. Again, it only goes up to that if I disable the solar panels, which seems strange. I don't know if that's right. Seems like I should be able to, as long as I don't exceed this max for either solar or utility, I should be able to get, in theory, you know, 50 coming out of the utility and then 120 minus 50 coming out of solar. Although I don't generate that much power in solar. There's the output model. I've only got one. You know, it'd be nice to have multiple ones in the future if I get that kind of set up. The appliance versus UPS, I think, has to do with the range of the output of the AC. I think one has a lower range for whatever reason. Not clear to me. There's my user setting for the battery. There's the pre-canned ones that are already inside there. I picked user, and then all these settings here for the bulk and the floating, and the values over here are all set as well. So I'm going to go through all those. I noticed I keep trying to set this fault. See this fault code record. I think what this means is that the device will record whatever the faults are and keep it in its little NVRAM, presumably. Well, whenever I click apply, and this is the same whether I use this or use the SunGoldPower app on my phone, it doesn't seem to stick. Notice right now I just said apply, and it said settings successful, and then I click close. Now if I go back to those settings, device control, parameter settings, and I reopen this window and resize it, you can see that it's gone back to disable. So I don't know what's going on there, if that's something just not supported in this version of the software of the device, or I'm doing something wrong. It'd be nice to know what's going on there. Anyway, so that's all that. There's the timer stuff for the time of day, and here's the priority level for that we saw in the weird codes they have on the devices for the short names. I believe, you see, we got defaults, real-time control. This is interesting because all it lets you do is just do something called clear all the data of energy. So the English isn't that great, but I think they mean wipe out some tables built inside the device. Well, that's it. I'm not going to spend more time. Hopefully SunGoldPower, you keep track of all the things that I've commented on, and you can help me get through the issues. One more thing, but while I'm thinking about it, under event action, this is the fault that has been happening right here. It's fault 1009, and if you Google bus soft start failed, you get all sorts of horrible stories about devices, basically rectifiers and capacitors and internal electronics inside of the MPPT failing, right? Which is bad. That means you actually got a hardware problem. Well, mine have always been transient. It'll fault to code 9, right? And that code shows right up here on the screen, like it does for a lot of these devices. It'll be at the very top up there. And the only way to clear the code and to have it start inverting and charging again is to power cycle. And by that, I turn off the breaker to the battery, so it doesn't have any battery power. Of course, I'm not running any external power in from the utility yet. And then there's a breaker over there in the photovoltaic combiner box. I can just shut that down as well. So this device will actually power off, and then I wait a few seconds, and I power back on, and then it comes up just fine. So anyway, that's the latest and greatest on this device, and I hope I get some great answers from SunGoldPower. They have been great to work with. You know, I don't think they're U.S. based, but they do have U.S. presence. There's a woman named Cindy who keeps emailing me back, and she's very polite, and they haven't charged me, so I'm quite pleased I'm getting this advice from them on how best to operate their hardware. So have a good one, and hope you like. Bye.